All right, so honestly, this is going to be a super quick call, because literally nothing has happened over the past, what, 3 days? Yeah, pretty much 3 days since the 19th, right? Because essentially, just looking at this, just literally from what happened in the span of the call on Tuesday, let me actually delete. Right, so it gets a bit tricky because, for example, just looking forward from what we spoke on Tuesday, right? We came back, right, measured or not measured, but essentially saw a test of previous structure, and that is eventually led us into, right, a liquidity grab, right? So once the liquidity grab then comes in, right, to create a type of pullback, right, and then not create a new low, it's essentially no man's land inside of this entire region, right? Meaning it's basically, for me, untradeable from a perspective of wanting, to know the direction that we're going to, because in this scenario, if you're trading internally, right, which is fine, right, but your bias can easily change within, a couple hours max, right? For example, like even just diving in here, right, you can easily say there's an internal liquidity grab here based on low, based on high, low, right, the continuation BOS to the upside, but with an unsubstantial new low, right? That justifies why you could potentially look for a scenario here. And if you're looking for internal conversions, right, the invalidation was never met. So you could say that there is an intraday position there, but directionally, it's hard to judge where we will go, right? Because we're technically bearish from high, low retracement, but this created a bullish liquidity grab, right? Which is in the mindset of trying to catch the reversal, right? And which is fine because it's technically, right, you're given the scenario of wanting to see or of potentially seeing a reversal, right? But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that you're already fully bearish. So from a continuation bias, this is extremely unwanted, extremely just not something I want to see, right? But if you're looking for reversals, right, which shouldn't be what you're looking for majority of the time, right, it gives you a potential small intraday position, right? But all we know for now is that we are technically still bearish because no significant lower high has been taken out. For example, looking at, right, potential structural range, right, we already had the pullback occur, right? Although we had an unsubstantial new low, right, there was internal bullish structure, which was then invalidated, right? And you can see that here, right? Because there's a pop up to the upside, and then we see a bearish move to the downside, meaning we have a high, low retracement, right? Internal confirmation, right? Internal continuation, right? And then now you see bullish liquidity grab, even though we're technically still bearish. So because we are still bearish, right, although this is technically bullish, right, it's a bit conflicting because we're still directionally bearish, right? But it's just a bit tricky because internally we're having a big old mess here and here, right? So from trying to trade a overall perspective, right, I am still bearish until, obviously any significant lower high is taken out, right? Not to mention bearish order flow is still obviously in play based on the current reaction, right? So now as long as this POI, here we don't see price start to skyrocket because unfortunately there is strong momentum internally behind that, right? We should still sustain that. But if we are to see a lower high be taken out, this then becomes, a bit conflicting just because, right, you would now want to be technically bullish because if we have a lower high be taken out here, right? Let me delete all of this. If we do have obviously this bullish liquidity grab, right, leading into a pullback, meaning this is now our solidified high, right? If this is now taken out, right, then we have our push down, our potential, not unwillingness, but an unsubstantial new low, and we have a final pullback to then give us unwillingness, which creates the sign of reversal, the true sign of reversal. So yeah, I mean, for the meantime, I am still bearish, especially with how our dailies are looking. I do expect maybe at least one push down, unless we see that push that I just mentioned with taking out a previous high. But with that being said, let's see. Right, just looking at our daily, not much has happened today, even the past 3 days. Right, and our weekly still looks relatively bearish. Right, so we'll see how we react probably within the next 2-3 days. Looking at EU, just as sloppy. Right, because we had a very good bounce, you know, based on what we talked about on Tuesday. The bounce occurred, right? But the bounce did not create a substantial new high. It didn't even meet liquidity, right? And then it, you know, obviously created a solidified high based on the preliminary structure break. And you're now pretty much stuck with unwillingness based on the previous high. So it's hard to justify more bullish positions just because we already had the effort show that it wanted to create a new high and it didn't. So because this is now obviously conflicting to the upside, it's hard to justify a move to the upside. So when that fails, right, then the failure, the bearish move does not create a new low. So it's even more clear to me that it's no man's land more than even DXY was, right? Because internally, like I said, you can play this. It just really depends on how conservative you wish to be. But just looking at how current order flow is, right, we're obviously bearish, right? And I do see this, you know, still continuing a bit lower, right? Especially with how strong this hourly closure is about to be. I do definitely see at least, right, our initial target be met, and then how we react afterwards is going to be, you know, solely up to transitions, because we could say, right, that there's another POI down here. We could say that, but in order to reach this POI, I know that we have to be internally, right, bearish, meaning you would need that conversion in order to conservatively justify, you know, that bullish position. But just with this, just as I said with DXY, this has been super sloppy in between when the call was, which is the 19th around here, right? Pretty much just this entire area, right? Just shows a ton of uncertainty. But directionally, it's a lot more clear to me here that we are bullish, right? So although this may continue lower, right, it is technically unwillingness. That's why I'm saying you would need a bullish conversion in order to justify that continuation. AU, this one also, right, after a very, very long bullish period, this seems a bit exhausted, especially with when we're looking at our structural ranges being our low to our high, right? And I consider this a solidified low because it caused a reaction that broke preliminary structure. So low, high, retracement, unwillingness, and we're potentially seeing a break now. But we could start seeing a bit more recovery. Who knows? This looks like a higher time frame turbulence point. Too much. Right, it looks like a potential higher time frame turbulence point, but directionally this looks the most bullish out of EU, GU, and DXY being bearish as well. But this looks the most bullish, especially because we took, right, a very significant level of structure, and because this structure pretty much this breaker structure occurred, we solidified this as unwillingness. So looking at this, right, I do want to see what happens once you start seeing a discount of the current structural range. But because we already had the break occur here, right, this shows that we are medium term or even small term bearish. So you would need, again, that bullish conversion in order to justify anything to the upside. This one, right, we've already discussed right? We've already discussed how, you know, after liquidity has been taken, right, I typically like to sit back, and as you can see, as a result, even though we had a continuation setup, it failed because the major liquidity point was taken, and you now see a move to the upside. So technically, right, this is bullish for medium term per se, and that, excuse me, where that conversion occurred, right, was here, where we come from, essentially a low, right, into a high, to a low, to 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 an up substantial new high, potentially liquidity grab, to now potentially seeing our first level of structure be taken out. So although this might be taken out, and which I probably do see as being taken out, and I'll explain why in a bit, but this is now solidifying my range, meaning I'm still bullish, but because we've already taken out a preliminary structure, I know that internally we are bearish, right? So this is where those transitions come into play. But I do see this being met relatively soon, just because we've internally already shown, right, a willingness to continue higher, but failed, right? Because we're obviously, the pullback needs to be bearish, right? From high to low, right? But internally, right, this is, right, my pullback, because this is where we solidified a high, and it's prior to a high low structural range. So because that occurred, right, and then it gave you that bullish reaction after a liquidity grab, right, because this is now then led to a failure, this is now a structural disruption, meaning this is bearish. So for the meantime, it should be bearish, and we should be taking out that structure point, at least in the short term. And then from there, obviously, like I said, we need our bullish transitions. But yeah, most of these pairs have been super boring this week. There's literally nothing, in my opinion, right? Just even looking at this, there was a move here prior to session, right? This was the actual only move that occurred, and then afterwards we're seeing a bunch of mess. So just pretty much skimming through this, right? Should be short-term bearish. Let's see. Cool. So does anybody have any questions? Well, let's see. Cool. Does anybody have any questions? Any trades this week? I know it was super boring with these pairs, but I don't know if anybody traded anything other than these. Go ahead, send me whatever you need to send me. Easy as it gets, bro. Let's see.
Hello, can
Yeah.
you hear me, bro? So, can you switch to 15 minute?
I'm sorry.
The first chart I sent you, can you switch to that? So, wait a second. After this break of structure, this lower high solidified, and then while coming down, it reacted from a POI here and gave a preliminary structure break. So, do you consider this as that preliminary structure break which can give us unwillingness? This because it eventually failed, as you can see.
So first question is, where is this going originally?
Originally, it was bullish from daily
Where is it? No,
perspective,
where is this
and
bullish? Where is this bullish? Overall, where is this bullish?
no, over right now it's bearish after this break of
So
structure.
why are you fighting that?
No, I was trying to get in with this unwillingness trade.
No,
Like,
I know, but why are you fighting that? Why are you fighting this?
hmm.
You see what I mean? Why are you fighting that? That's automatically trying to set yourself up for failure here, right? And two, right? Once again, why are you fighting this? This, right? This, right, is a continuation BOS, meaning it solidifies the previous range, right? So you're too busy trying to catch the reversal when in reality, right, all this is an unsubstantial new high, a continuation BOS, a liquidity grab. So you're setting yourself up for failure because you're already just pursuing the reversal. So it's just hard to justify anything when you see bearishness.
Cool. But how will you, like, I've seen you taking trades after preliminary structure break. Like, if this
Yeah,
was
bro, but it has
something
to be
like
it has
this,
to be in alignment with structure.
so unwillingness is always
No,
like if we have
unwillingness here is when this breaks.
when what I didn't see.
When this breaks.
Okay, okay, okay.
Because you're still bearish.
Okay,
You're
got
so
it.
focused here, but you're disregarding all of this.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Like, look, retracement, right? Obviously, there is a potential bullish liquidity grab, but where are we directionally? Bearish, right? So I'm always looking for what's in alignment with my current structure, and what I see is an unsubstantial new high, right, and a bearish liquidity grab.
Yeah, but this execution was after I have seen that unwillingness happening. So I was like wrong in that unwillingness at the first place only.
So
This
the only
execution didn't make sense then. Yes.
no, this execute no, it doesn't. But the only way that this would make sense is if you would have had, for example, here your internal high to low, if you have a break, then you justify it because this would now be in alignment with this. But you have to realize in order for price to now come back to this POI, which I don't agree with at all, you're looking for a 99% retracement on a bearish trend, doesn't make sense to me at all. But if you're looking for this, you have to realize in order to meet this desired POI, you need a bearish transition. You need bearish order flow to reach there. So if you don't wait for that transition here, then you're picking a low. Because you're already trying to
Yeah.
pick a low on higher time frame or on medium time frame on your minor intraday structure.
Cool. Can you switch to 15-minute
Let me
plus?
see. Yeah.
I've seen you that if this was something like this, and if this would have broken, so you have considered this as unwillingness.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that after this instant structure break, why isn't this an unwillingness? That's
Because
what
this
I'm
is
saying.
smaller time frame, bro. This is not this entire trend. How are you trying to invalidate this entire trend with such a little move? Right? The only way to
Hmm.
invalidate this, right, is if the solidified high is broken. So you're
Okay.
confused with trying to use or trying to invalidate a 15-minute time frame move with an M1 transition. You're trying to invalidate it, so it doesn't align.
Yep.
So the only
Got
way
it.
for this to be unwillingness is if that's taken out.
Yep. Got it.
And but yeah, I don't see this. This is not. This is just hard to justify here because you are bearish. So you trying to justify even this now is just showing that you're just worried about the reversal.
Yeah,
Like
because
you're.
on 1 hour and 4 hour it was bearish, and the
Let me
1 hour
see.
solidified low wasn't broken. So I was like expecting it giving unwillingness so that we can have a transition.
Yeah, but why are you expecting unwillingness in a bearish trend?
Yeah, I got it.
See? Yeah, so you see it's a bit, like it's a bit too optimistic,
Hmm. Thank you,
right?
bro.
You have the high low retracement, right? All this should be continuation based. And even if you're trying to catch, a type of reversal here, who's to say you don't just reverse back down here? Because once again, your trend is still bearish, right?
Hmm.
So don't be stuck on the initial continuation BOS. This is first course stuff, right? Obviously the new stuff recognizes this as a continuation BOS, recognizes this as a bearish liquidity grab, right? And if you're already bearish, then how do you buy? You see what I mean?
Hmm. No, I wouldn't have executed if I am I considered unwillingness at the first place. That's why I came down at lower time frames to execute it. But my unwillingness unwillingness on 15 minute was wrong, so I should have
It's not
haven't considered
unwillingness.
that. Yeah, yeah, right.
It's solidifying. It's solidifying this from here to here. You're solidifying that based on this continuation BOS. So
Yeah,
this
got it.
solidifies your structural range. Now, if it immediately converted right after, okay, that's not on me. But what I'm telling you is that what this is doing is not giving you unwillingness. It's giving you, right, the solidification of the trading range. If this is now taken out, okay, now you could say it's unwillingness. Right, but you haven't even given this a chance to pull back to even show to you that it's unwillingness. Right, that's why even here, what did we just talk about today? Which pair was it? Was it the XY? Right, so pretty much the same thing here. I still acknowledge, right, that there is bearish order flow in play. I acknowledge that we are still bearish. We are still bearish. So even though there is a bullish move here, right, why are you so worried about this pullback here when we're directionally bearish? Can this give you a small payday? Of course, but right, probabilities. There's a possibility that you're going to potentially see a very big move, and that's, just per se 1 to 60 move. There's a possibility that would happen, but what's the probability of that happening, right, when bearish structure is still in play? You see what I mean?
Yes, bro.
So when you're looking for those reversals, right, because just like I said here, right, it could still potentially reverse because of the internal M1 movement, but I know that directionally I'm still bearish, right? So why am I trying to force a bullish move when in reality the bearish move is in play? Right, obviously it's bearish until it's not, and that's the point of conversions, about looking at conversions, right? But just looking at this, right, a conversion here would be for me, right, that being met and then giving that continuation BOS and then solidifying a move, because it would be backed by order flow, structure, and a continuation, not me trying to pick the low being here and then trying to guess that this is going to be where the reversal occurs, right? Justify the position you're trying to take. Let me see. Yeah, it's just, that's not something, that's just something we all go through, right? We all want to pick that bottom, we all want to pick that high, but in reality the continuations will pay you more and more consistently. right? So that's the difference with possibility and probability. Let's see. Cool. See. Good example. Right? Just without even you telling me what we're looking at. Right? The aggressive trader will trade this here. But that's a reversal mindset because we are still bullish. You see what I mean? But if you wait for this to then take that out, this is a conservative entry that's justified based on structure. Because we have already seen a potential reaction, and then a break. A true conversion, there you go. Right, so even disregarding this, yeah, this is for the people that have been with me for a long time, this used to be seen as a false flag. Essentially a type of liquidity grab. But then all you're doing is a continuation. But this only makes sense once this is taken out. Because it wanted to pop off. Let me actually do different colors. Right, we wanted to pop off. Right, and we gave, obviously, the pullback. Right, but structurally inside, we are still bearish. You see what I mean? Right, and it's hard from here, you know, I would not expect this. Right, because remember, to have strong order flow, you don't really want that many mitigations. But yeah, this is definitely waiting for more of a transition before executing. But cool, does anybody have any more questions? Solidify highs and lows so important. I find they have, I mean, of course they are. Because they dictate direction. Anybody can read a structural range, right? But if you can analyze when a high and a low is solidified, and then you see if there's a transition or continuation, then you have a bias. So it's just, you know, connecting A to B to C. Cool, does anybody have any more questions? Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't see that, I'm sorry. Okay, so what am I looking at?
Pretty much you're looking at a sell trade for the idea to come down to that red POI, which would be structure, bullish structure still intact. So this is a quote unquote a counter or reversal trade current structure. So I just seen that we are initiating the pullback to go lower, and I just seen that SC potential candle that took out liquidity reacted to 50% and to take it to the downside towards that red POI, because that would be pretty much the breaking point of this structure, because we're currently just in a pullback phase on higher time frames.
So I like this. And you see obviously the POI that we noted. And the only way that this makes sense is because of this. Right, so although I wouldn't have taken this trade, just being 100% honest, just because I know that directionally is still bullish. The only details, right, I don't like that you noted that high. It should be this high. And two, this line should start at the open of the candle.
Okay, yeah, I did it like that for the simple fact that I know that typically I know there's that SC on probably a smaller time frame where I can get more body to wick ratio, so I just noted the whole entire.
Yeah, and then also you do have liquidity be taken out. Right, but me personally, I would have rather wanted this to have happened and then, you know, taken a potential continuation.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just waiting for that conversion, like you were saying earlier.
Because technically it's just picking a high, just because you just took out a high. You see what I mean?
And then another reason why is that preliminary. I'm looking for that preliminary structure. That preliminary leg that led to that higher high with green box.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be taken out for the pullback. So, yeah, bro.
So yeah, definitely, it's nice from a overall perspective. But yeah, I would have definitely wanted something internally there. But yeah, it's solid. A bit aggressive, but it's solid.
Sure.
Let me see something. Let me show you something, Ash, too. Let me see, which one was your chart? It was this one. Right, so I know I said this in the course, like I specifically said this. The security, I believe it was during structure, but the security of structures, the security of a POI, the security of anything, right, is better whenever it is judged from obviously the higher the structural level. For example, an M30 structural range will have much more security than an M1 structural range, right? So I know you're probably thinking, why does his unwillingness work when mine doesn't? And that's for one, because M30 in comparison to M1 M1, right? So when you pull up your other chart, this one, right, from an M15 time frame very close to M30, you are bearish. Whereas in his image, your M30, although it is bullish, it showed the sign of reversal on the M30, not on your M1, right? Not on your M15, right? If this would have happened on your M15 chart, then I can justify a potential unwillingness. You see what I mean? That's the difference between this and your scenario. Right, cool. Anybody else have any more charts? Cool. Anybody else? Cool. So I think we ended off there. So just quick summary, I guess. Today's lecture, right? The number one thing, continuations over reversals. Number two, the security of anything, whether it's structure, order flow, anything, right? The security is greater when you are referencing a higher structural level, right? And that's shown today because we technically have two reversal trades that are, you know, attempting to use unwillingness, right? Whereas one, you try to use the unwillingness on M1, and the second example, you try to use the unwillingness concept on an M30, which is obviously significantly greater. Let's see. Yeah, you see, this is a better example of using unwillingness and structure and solidified highs and lows. Much better example.
Actually, when I was watching this breakdown of yours, like it was a Zoom or something, I don't remember exactly. But what I saw was it was bullish at first, but after this preliminary structure broke, you told that this became unwillingness, this high. So that's why I thought otherwise I would have taken this after this broke, but
Yeah, but
after
also,
yeah. So that's why I was confused that whether we have to look for preliminary structure break or like full transition, like liquidity grab or something.
yeah, so that's your answer right there, M15.
Yeah, right.
Right, we're referencing M1 versus M15. Right, and technically, right, when we're doing this as potential unwillingness, right, this is the sign of unwillingness, right, because of the structure break, but this is full unwillingness.
Yeah, right. So in the Zoom you explained a potential entry here, and even I also took it in London session, I guess. But the thing is, I was like I focused on this preliminary structure break that you like told in the Zoom. So I just related this to that EURUSD chart. After that preliminary break, I considered it unwillingness. Then I went to the smaller time frames to execute. So that's what that happened.
But you see why this makes sense, though, right?
Yeah, but there also on 15-minute, I was like considering that preliminary structure break only, right? On that Euro JPY 15-minute chart. So I was confused that why that preliminary structure break isn't making it unwillingness, and here this preliminary structure break is making this as unwillingness. That's what I was confused about.
So there's the only things, right? So here, it's potential unwillingness because of the structure break, but also if you're wanting to take this POI, you need to dive in deeper to find the conversion, because in order to reach that POI, you need to be bullish internally. So if you then wait for the transition here, then you catch the whole move.
Yeah,
Right,
on
that's
1 minute it gave that transition
yeah,
here,
exactly.
like yeah.
Right, and
Yeah,
that's the
on 1 minute.
definition of conservative.
Okay.
Right, because this conversion now solidifies, right, obviously the bias, which would be bearish, which solidifies, right, the overall reversal. That's a conservative way of looking at a reversal.
Okay, bro. Thanks.
Very cool. Very cool. Anybody else? Cool, cool. All right. Yeah, I guess we can end it off there. Cool. I'll see you guys on Tuesday.